Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that, well, it feels really cutting edge, but definitely needs a critical look. Bioresonance therapy, or BRT. This whole deep dive actually started because you asked us about those bioenergy chip health products. So we decided it was time to really unpack these claims and try to figure out what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's a great topic for us, especially for you listening, maybe without a deep biomedical background. It'd be hard to sort through this stuff. We even saw this, well, startling story from a D-card user. Their parents spent, get this, $260,000 on something called a chip chair,
Wow, 260,000 on what basis?
based on promises from sellers that it could cure paralysis or even restore hearing. It's just fascinating and frankly a bit scary how powerful anecdotal evidence these sort of miraculous legends can be. The fundamental claim with BRT usually circles back to detecting and correcting different electromagnetic oscillations that supposedly come from disease cells.
Okay, electromagnetic oscillations. That sounds very technical, very scientific on the surface, doesn't it? But how do we evaluate that critically? What are these oscillations they're talking about?
Well, that's exactly the point. That's the crucial question. Proponents say every cell, healthy or not, gives off these unique frequencies, electromagnetic ones, and they claim BRT devices can, like, read these frequencies and then correct the bad ones to make you healthy again. But I mean, while our bodies absolutely use electrical signals, like nerve impulses, heartbeats, that kind of thing, this specific idea, that individual cells emit unique, therapeutically relevant frequencies that can be read and fixed from the outside, like this. There's just no solid scientific evidence supporting that. Not in biology, not in physics. It's the very foundation of the claim that doesn't really hold up to scientific scrutiny.
Right. And Professor Lin, who wrote our main source material for today, he really just cuts straight to the chase on this. He says quite clearly, no matter how many patents, how many awards, products that haven't passed clinical trials are deceptive. So that kind of sets our mission today, doesn't it? To really analyze BRT critically and understand why some major institutions have been raising red flags about it for decades now. So what have these institutions actually found?
Well, if we look back, there's a pretty consistent pattern of concern. It's quite striking, actually. You go back as far as 1999, and The Lancet, a major medical journal, was already warning that BRT could accelerate the spread of what they called bogus cancer cures.
Bogus cancer cures, wow, back in 99.
Then jumped to 2004. A journal called Research in Complementary and Classical Natural Medicine, they labeled the language used by BRT proponents as pseudoscientific. They pointed out it often uses this impressive-sounding jargon, words that sound technical but are ultimately meaningless. They called it gobbledygook as science.
Gobbledygook is science.
Sure. So it's not just a lack of evidence, but the language itself is designed to mislead.
Precisely. It obscures the lack of real proof. And the journal warned this could actually endanger patients by making them delay treatments that do work. Okay, so that's the early history. Has anything changed since then?
Not really. The pattern just continues. You look at major cancer centers like Memorial Sloan Kettering. They state very clearly there's no evidence to support these claims for diagnosis or treatment, for cancer, allergies, arthritis, you name it. They specifically found it unreliable for allergy diagnosis, no proven benefit for things like eczema. And then you have the regulators stepping in, the US FDA. They've actually sued providers over unproven claims. In Australia, the TGA started cracking down on non-compliant advertising back in 2019. And just this year, 2024, the UK's Advertising Standards Authority looked into it and again found no evidence supporting BRT devices for diagnosis or treatment.
So it's really not just one opinion. It's a pretty broad consensus across the scientific and regulatory world over a long period.
It really is. Decades of consistent findings.
Which brings us back to that story about the chip chair parents. If the science is so overwhelmingly skeptical, how does BRT still manage to be so persuasive for some people? What did that VCOM-VE report find about their marketing tactics?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. The BCOM-VE report from 2025 really digs into this. They highlight how BRT marketing often targets emotional vulnerability. They use things like celebrity endorsement and online hype to build credibility where scientifically there isn't much.
The emotional appeal.
Exactly. And this can lead to real problems. Significant economic exploitation like that 260,000 tile chair, and also the psychological impact of false hope. The report underlines the fundamental lack of scientific basis, the very real risk of misdiagnosis if people rely on it, and just the basic ethical problems with making these kinds of unsupported promises.
It really shows how powerful belief and marketing can be, especially when people are desperate or vulnerable, and when the science isn't clearly communicated or understood.
Absolutely.
So this raises an important point for all of us, doesn't it? Simple, painless treatments sound amazing, especially when you're dealing with health issues. But fundamentally, safety and science are essential. And we've seen today why, for decades, BRT just hasn't met that standard of rigorous scientific evidence.
Right. And that's why, we always have to come back to recommending that you consult a qualified medical professional before trying out any alternative therapies. Get advice from people grounded in evidence-based medicine. Knowledge is powerful, yes, but it's most powerful when you understand it critically, when you can really distinguish between genuine innovation and, well, illusion.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We really hope this deep dive gives you a bit more confidence to ask the tough questions, to evaluate health claims critically, and ultimately, to understand the crucial difference between a compelling story and actual scientific proof. Stay curious, stay critical, and always let robust evidence be your guide.